This is a moon day, moon hour. And let's call on Selene because Selene is goddess of creation, fertility, the goddess of the moon. She's also the goddess of courage. And you want to think about the moon as health, fertility, boobs, okay, breasts, fluids. We're talking about the fluids of the orgasmic fluids of women. And we're talking about how important is willing consent and the soil that holds the water. And how important is to generate, to manifest the conditions that support willing consent, healthy fluids, healthy fertility, healthy breasts, healthy caregiving, um, for there to be a good mothering experience, right? A woman that was not given birth by consent, for example, would not be such a good caregiver. I knew a Bedouin woman, and in Bedouin society had polygamy, and she was the first wife and of someone which was by coercion. She didn't want to have children, and she was forced to have children. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, her husband was a rapist. Like, that was a situation where they were societally coerced to have sex. Okay, it's a rape by society, which is why it later ends in invasion, colonialism, genocide, genocide, genocide. Same with the red sheets and the red blood on the sheets with the Jews, right? It's not anti-Semitic to say that. That's an old shamanic teaching of how these things come about. It doesn't mean that your family that survived the Holocaust is to blame for that. Okay? Like, I'm not to blame for the fact that 7th of October I was tortured for an entire week. I didn't sleep. Nobody saw that. They didn't invade Beersheba. Fuck. Nobody saw that. Okay? Dude, are the people that were raped and were ritually sacrificed on the villages blamed for that? No, they were mostly the people that were helping Palestinians when they needed a medical care. They were the people that didn't like the Hitnatkut because the Palestinians used to work on their soil, and they would be the working for the agriculture. And then when they further industrialized that, they had to bring employees from, Vietnam, from other places. But they also couldn't offer them a good conditions. Even right now, they're being bombed. And you think about the owner of the farmers, okay, in Israel, they're up in the soil. It's not like the landlords having slaves. Like, they're up in the soil. They're from the morning on working. They're not, this satellite person that runs a farm. But those conditions, like, are these people to blame? No. Did Israel receive one heck of an invasion because they were sex spionages in the IDF and in the police and in the ward offices and infiltration, and the female watchers were threatened for their lives, not to speak? When they saw unusual activity, weren't the situation, the Me Too went too far, but no actual housing solution for both men that their woman wants a divorce, and women that want to separate from their boyfriend or something like that. Okay, that preceded 7th of October. Yeah. I'm not to blame for 7th of October. I was tortured for a fucking week. I didn't sleep for a fucking week. And nobody knows because that's MK Ultra. And I did tend to where it's coming from. Well, that's a global issue of the lodges that run the society. Not the local Israeli-Palestinian issues. The watermelons are not the Palestinians. They're Muslim Brotherhood of Satan. It has nothing to do with Palestinians. But the Palestinians tribe that treated women and children in a way that the place became a desert when just 100 years ago it was not a desert. Okay? Just 100 years ago, it was not a difference, but it was no place for a woman to say yes, no, and maybe. That is important for a good conception experience, birthing experience, and upbringing experience. And it's also important to restore that. And we can do it through the soil, to building half moons to the soil in the half moon, to hold the water. Okay? Those are the things that restore the holding space for emotions, for safe attachment patterns, okay, for to be able to be vulnerable without being groomed, without fearing that that would be taken to sex trafficking, without being fear, having to wonder about, being abandoned because your person has a problem with commitment because they are so traumatized for not being able to make it in the economy that they won't be able to support a child, or they're not even connected with their likes and dislikes, or not being able to because if you had said yes, no, and maybe, you would be attuned to your own bodily organs, and you would be less afraid of abandonment upon having sex, because you would feel the yes, no, and maybe your body would feel like that's a yes, that's a no. And if there was, later things you find out, and like, okay, maybe that's not working, you both kind of find out that, hey, and you have enough soil, you have enough security, you have yourself, so that you can withstand the separation, the grief, and the loss, and find a partner that does provide for that. Okay? Because you're deserving to have your needs met. Okay? And so Selene is the goddess of courage. She's also the goddess of fertility. And we can think about how the inversion of those, the cults and lodges of the inversion of those, they enact all kinds of weird ideas. So we have weird ideas about consent. We have weird ideas about sex. We have inversion of sex, which is rape. Inversion of consent, which is rape. And we have inversion of commitment, which is cheating and betrayal. And then we have inversion of tending to that, where, let's say, a person would be wondering about the third party, not in the sense of like in non-monogamy, hey, what happened? Is there a crisis? Is there a thing? Is there that? Well, sometimes the crisis was a willing consent. What do you do then? What if it's karma? What if your spouse has, man or woman, affiliation with sexpionage's training, and you didn't know about that? What does it look like to the third party? Okay, well, that looks like you're a part of the human trade. Okay, we talked about it in previous video. We can't be shaming women about their sexuality and then claiming that now your race is raped is justice. I'm gonna say it again. We can't be shaming women for having their yes, no, and maybe attuned to their own sensual self, and then saying, oh, the fact that now your race is raped, first of all, it was before, but whatever, is justice. Okay? Let's talk about Israeli Palestinians, okay? The Palestinians, the talk that their Palestinian identity was way more important to them than their identity as a woman, and divided the feminist quest for willing consent, freedom, well-being, equity, respected. You can't now be saying, oh, now Jewish women are raped. They were raped beforehand. They are the ones that got to this fight for willing consent, and they wanted you to join in as a Palestinian woman, and they saw that more important than your being Palestinian and me being Israeli is us being human beings, and our yes, no, and maybe matters. because your husband rapes you when he wins, your husband rapes you when he loses, your husband rapes you when he's lost, your husband rapes you when he's found. You can't be going and saying, oh, now Jewish women, Israeli women are going to go through what we've been through. We have been there trying to get you the fuck out of this, but you told us that your national identity matters more than willing consent. And then you forced on us a relativistic view of morals where we have to consent to your wearing a freaking burqa that is used by sex traffickers. Okay, I know that from a Bedouin man. We were shopping at the market and he told my mama, you see all these women with the burqas, they're sex workers. Okay, he doesn't know that that's espionage. He's just running a business in the market. Okay. And I was like, really? Aren't they like the Orthodox, the religious? No, they hide their faces because they're sex workers. I was there saying we cannot enforce the burqa. We cannot allow for that dumb fuckery to go. We cannot allow for your sexual oppression to go on. You need to have the right to exit violence, whether that's having, your own housing and a passport. Before, when I was in Netherlands homeless, women and men got housing before me. Fuck. Because I'm Dutch. And that was okay. As long as you don't, you get your rape culture off our lawns. You can't be crying, now you are raped. You don't even know what my life story is. And thinking that justice to your nationality, when the entire process of feminism, we were talking about the fact that your yes, no, and maybe matters whether you're an Arabic woman that's forced to wear a burqa and sleep with her husband, or you're a Jewish Orthodox woman that's forced to have red blood on the white sheets upon your wedding day, or you're a Mormon child bride, that freaking matters. You can't be getting at me with justice being rape. Rape is not justice, and you definitely can't talk about that being justice on a national level when you cared about your nationality more than you cared about willing consent. If that value changed, come on, let's shake hands and work together to change for that issue and talk about willing consent. If you care now about rape more than you do before, and you care about that, and you're now like, oh my God, the fact that I was Palestinian I was getting raped more. Yes, your dumb fuckery culture was rapey, and then there was colonialism. And that's a now, you can't change your dumb fuckery culture, but let's talk about the right to exit violence for you, instead of cooperating with people who will rape women, and you'll say, oh, now they are raped. We reached out a hand and we said, and then you said, no, let me to have my burqa. I'm Palestinian before I am a woman. Good. If that is changed now, then let's freaking talk. Let's talk about abolishing human trafficking. Join the slut walk. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe they're funded by corruption. I have no idea. Like the doors are all open for you to join the raising awareness to willing consent and combat human trafficking together. Fuck. Absolutely, you're more susceptible to that, being in marginalized society. But when we reached out a hand and we said, hey, we cannot enforce this burqa because this is what they put on sex workers when they sex traffic women. You talked about your cultural heritage and how important it is to have these burqa businesses that having and all these conversations about you're not supposed to wear stylish clothes, and Mormon style conversations, but in Muslim. And then going out and say, oh, now those women are, come on. and putting the Palestinian liberation before your own personal liberation because you justified rape. Now, if that's change, wonderful. Let's act together to abolish human trafficking. Let's act together to raise awareness. There are a lot of women that are acting together to change those things. They speak against Islam. They speak against the cultural traits of raping people. And then they connect it with West and they're like, oh, the roses are not so rosy. They're too Rosicrucian in our place too. There's more to be changed even in our so-called enlightened Western society. Let's talk about that. And let's fucking change that. You want to get yourself the karma of a perpetrator? God. That's what you're creating when you're balancing the scale to now let's have these people raped. First of all, they were raped before. What is incest cults? African lodges, Israeli lodges, Dutch lodges, American lodges, Mormon lodges, Muslim lodges, Satan's lodges, church lodges, are all lodges. Sovereignty begins with willing consent. There's no national sovereignty if there's no willing consent. And sovereignty dies when willing consent is not respected. What did I tell when I walked the garden? And a guy with, really, we had the other day, a guy, Arab guy, okay, comes with it's like a van. It's 4-on-4 vans. Like I'd see that in Sedona. I'd see that in Texas. I don't know. I was never there physically, but I'd see that. I was thinking like, they're probably coming. There's like maybe they're bringing the Goldens and they go into the creek and they're gonna have a swim and they're gonna eat some pizza, and and there's nothing to it. The guy comes and I literally tell him, darling, you come with the truck, this 4-on-4 truck. And I didn't have to say anymore. He knows that that's the trucks that were piling up people on 7th October. And then you're staring at me. I'm working in my garden. So in the beginning, he was like, you don't want me to cover yourself. I was like, no, you cover yourself. Okay? But when he got the point, it was like, you could respect my space. It was like, okay, if you want me to move the truck, I'll move it. No, you don't have to move the truck. Just respect our space. Everything is fine. It was a lovely day. But but before that, I told him, listen, what happens when men, look at the women, look at this, look at that. The women are gone, the children are gone. Then what happened? You get murdered by the hundreds. And he knows what I'm talking about because they get murdered by the hundreds today within Bedouin society. No colonialism, no nothing. That's how it goes. That's how sovereignty is gained and lost. Want to talk about sovereignty? It's like, I think that's also, if you come from a place that was closed off because you were kept in isolation and there were intentional division and mind control and relief for the Palestinian Israeli, okay, just like in general, there's intentional isolation. When I was in Amsterdam at the first night and there was a woman trying to recruit me to human trafficking and I told her bye-bye when I literally had no place to go. Okay, I didn't know there were winter shelters. I didn't know where I was going to. I escaped, as far as I was concerned, I was escaping to my death. I genuinely took that as a possibility because I had no idea where am I going. I just knew that there was no homeless solutions for Israeli people. Israeli women that run away from violence has nowhere to go. One doggy seater canceled and you are in the street. There's no way out of the street. I didn't know that there were winter shelters. I didn't know what is, what isn't. I knew I had some rights as residents, so I don't come as like refugee. And that's what's up. Okay? And that first night, the way it works is that lady that I spent an entire shift at the bank working in the street of Amsterdam, not as a sex worker, but she works as the person that checks people, okay, for to see if they keep the order in the street. Her name was Galubina, but the fact is she's very likely was tortured and she had to traffic people. So she was a recruitant. And she begins to tell you, if you if you travel, it's not if you run away, she didn't say it in so many words, but it's like, there are cameras in the place, it's kind of like a weed, only soft drugs. I'm like, soft drugs is legal in the Netherlands. You're gonna have to work, have a friend who has a pub, it's gonna cost €1,000 for you to get a passport. I'm like, I'm Dutch. But I see what people encounter when they go to Amsterdam, and they encounter that by the employers of the bank. I'm talking about the company that is guarding the streets in Amsterdam. Okay, now they have, I think they have a jeweler company that's not, I hope it's not associated. And they have, and then she tells you like, well, come with me, she buys you a Starbucks, she buys you, kind of like whatever you like, and then you stay with her, and she shows you pictures of her family. And you're like, okay, and she tells you, I know what it's like to be homeless, which doesn't sound strange because you know that Netherlands have a housing crisis. And she herself is looking immigrant, so she's amiable, and she tells you can stay at her place until you get yourself, a place. And you're like, oh my God, there's this nice girl buying me a Starbucks. I'm working with her in the shift. She's at work. We are working together. It's freezing cold. We're both freezing cold. And she's waiting for her shift, and there was a thing with the person. She switched the sides of the street with another person who went to get a booster shot. It was a Friday, before Christmas 2021, okay, December 23rd or 24th, okay, because I was flying on a Thursday, on a Jupiter day, and that was one night in the street, freezing cold. And she met me at the central station. And because I just missed the stop for Harlem, which was the shelter that they told me to go to the shelter, but I didn't know where it was. And I came, and until they helped me, it was already late. Okay, it was a morning flight, but until they helped me, it was already late. So naturally, I walked all night. I was very tired, and she knew what it's like to get. When she told me, like, that standing like in the streets like that, it is not sustainable. It's not like and I was just trying to see, maybe I will dance a little and people will give me money like that. That's what I had for me. Like, I had nothing. And eventually I would meet a woman that told me she's from North Korea, and she would go to dance, not as a stripper, but to dance in the street and for money, and then she would come back to the shelter. So I worked for a shift with that woman. And then she begins to tell me as we go towards her house, like, yeah, we'll have a pajama, we'll have a lingerie, and Monday comes a lady with the lingerie, and I'm like, what? She's like, I want you to know where you're going. There are cameras, you can't go in the weekend, you can't go out, because it's like, it's the business. And she tells me that's the housing of the bank. Until today, I never received anything, not from Amsterdam police, not from Polaris, not from the government, not any authority that I've been turned into on this case. And I was speaking out. Okay? Nada. Um, and that stuck with me before Ukraine war, before 7th October, that stuck with me. It's like, what am I doing about that? And I wasn't even thinking about myself. I was like, who are those people that come to these places, they're refugees and their children. They're also local children. Like you have a fight with your family, okay? You go out and you decide, I'm going to spend the day. You spend the night all by yourself. You have this woman offers you to buy you, and she's with a uniform, and you're told to obey authorities and to not to make probleem, okay, geen probleem, to obey the rules. And if she buys you whatever you want, you can want whatever you want. You want a beer? Do you want some more? You know, we have only soft drugs. Do you want to work for me? I trust you, so I tell only you this. And she shows you pictures of her family and other children, happy, smiling children. And she gets you like, I know some parents, you know, I get it. You need, you know, the people, children need their own sovereignty, their own. That's the same. She told me, you know, there are courses from the government. You're gonna learn a course like a manicure. Is here again. And of course, if she works as a manicure, she's a recruiter. That's our entire makeup industry. Beauty industry. Now, if she's has escaped from another place, doesn't have the culture or the language, or maybe somebody speaks Arab, somebody speaks, okay, so speak your language. It's those people they put on the front line for the recruitment. It's not this threatening looking man that you don't, you know, it's not that. It's the kind woman that tells you, and she says, I won't let any man touch you unprovoked. Nobody touches you. You see me? Nobody touches me. I don't let nobody touch you. And of course, later you're infuriated with her, but all you know is there was this Galobina girl. Very likely she was tortured to death until she agreed to recruit. Because she had enough of being raped, right? And she's probably raped as well. Fuck. Does the name Jaguar Wright ring a bell? So you run away from that place, and there's a place that's supposed to be warm, and then she begins to say, you know what I like? I like when people obey my orders. I like to give orders to people. I like when people don't make problems. And you know that if you travel with the ticket, you know that we check the ticket, so you're going to have a lot of problems. Now, at first, I said, I'm going to litigate the dumb fuckery of that place, but jurisdictie like this. Yes, I didn't know anything about anything. But the thing is, I said, I got to have a clean record. I don't drive black. I don't this, I don't that. Then eventually you drive black and you see the Bing people, they're like, it's not at all like that. Okay, and if you don't have a ticket, they're not supposed to tell you that, but actually you would be supposed to tell me that in a public transportation company. But it's, they're like, their rules, they tell them not to tell that. It's like, because you're homeless, I'm writing this down and you deserve for that to be canceled. Now, of course, the guy that's in charge, the guy at the club that's in charge of canceling these things is like, yeah, you can come to me. Maybe there is one bed. Oh, really? So I haven't had these reports canceled for a while now. God. But what people are taught that they're going to have problems with those who are in charge of the transportation if they, God forbid, travel black. What? And then with the police. She said, we work together with the police. I'm going to say it again. She said, we work together with the police. And I say it again. She said, we work together with the police. You will have problems if you travel, if you run away, okay? And you go to the police and it's very convincing. You say, I've just been dealing with that thing. And you show your Israeli passport because you're like, I want to go back to Israel. Mission accomplished. And they give you a social worker name for Israel because you know that if I'm going to give up, if they talk about me being Dutch, that don't, something told me. I did not even know about Peter back then. Okay, something told me that I'll just show my Israeli passport and say I want to go back so that they will help me. Okay, because they don't want you to stay, even if you have a Dutch passport. And the guy just ignores me and says, well, back to the street then, and shows me the place that is like, and then he says the place is 14 minutes walk. And before that, it was something like having to walk 2 hours in the snow or in 0 degree, almost 0 degree, because below 0 you have the winter shelters. Other than that, you don't have the winter shelters except for COVID. There was not snow back then. It was cold. It was a little bit of beginning to snow. And then it was the 40 minutes. Fortunately, I had still 30 euros, and I managed to pay with that for the cab. It's a cab. It looks like it's a Mercedes van. It's you know, you're afraid it's not going to be a Chinese death van. And then the 40 minutes walk, when the other female cop came in, because I was just standing there, I was just sitting there, totally exhausted, not even really physically being able to move. And the guy, the cop, he says, well, it's the I&O. You go to the I&O. He travels to the I&O. Here is a more, there's an actual shelter. There's actually safer separation between women and men. And I didn't know about that. It's the female woman that gave me that. And when I was talking about, for the police officer, it was like, there was nobody to talk to. So, of course, when the Gallupian says we work with the police, I'm like, well, duh. So how is human trafficking works with the police? That's organized crime. I said what I said. If I have to be criminal, it has to be disorganized crime because I'm not an organized person. Okay? And we traveled in this car, and obviously the 14 minutes walk were 14 minutes drive. And suddenly I begin to fear that I'm being kidnapped. So I try to open the door, and the driver's like, doesn't know what's going on. It's like, no, wait, everything's fine. There's a little bit of traffic. Here, we get there, here, you see the hour, this is the, I know. Okay? And eventually brings me to that place, and then I have to go back to take the ticket, gave his ticket to the train to travel another hour to Transformatower to get registered and to go back. Fortunately, there was a Polish couple with me, so I knew the way back because I could lose my way back. And immediately, you're so disoriented from everything. And then it was at the I&O. So no addressing for human trafficking in Spanish. Now, you don't have a lot of battery when you used it for the Wi-Fi of the place, and you don't have a lot of batteries. You use the best of your ability and the best of what you still have. I was barely able to sleep, barely able to eat for several days, and you use the best of your ability to try to turn to Polaris or try to turn to the government, try to inform them, try to turn to somebody. And they're working with the police, or they're probably working with the government. And I'm still recovering, so I haven't managed to even turn to that depth, because you have to like be in the Netherlands or turn like, I don't even know what, when, what, and I obviously don't have the documents anymore. Like, I don't know what the dumbfuckery. Okay, like really. And who thinks about it when you're dealing with being trafficked and running away from trafficking? And of course, you manage to escape, so they keep the tab on you, and you got a satellite by Elon Musk, Mole X. So they have an infrastructure. Yeah. So you see, taking the any agenda, if the result of your agenda is that somebody's getting raped, you are doing crimes against humanity. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what your ideology is. If your ideology is rapey, there is no, people are not to blame for their rape. And this is also, we're talking about the moon, and we're talking about Venus approaching. Venus in Capricorn, she's very, she's business oriented, she's put together, she's climbing up the ladder, and she's very busy. We're talking about Capricorn is climbing up the ladder. When you climb a mountain, you adapt to the mountain. Because obviously you want to climb that mountain, unless you're like a refugee, and you adapt to the mountain, okay? And so you would get people at the top of the mountain or around the ranks of the mountain saying, even women saying, oh, she climbed the ladder by the pants. Like, whoever says that, you better bet that they did that, and maybe that was a failed attempt, or they tried to do that. But the thing that you didn't succeed because the guy was not into sex, he was into raping, and that guy was raping her, and that's how she supposedly climbed up the ladder, through rape. Talking about Mariah Carey and Tony Motola. It's not like she wanted that. It was love bombing and toxic relations. So she didn't climb up the ladder through. Okay? It's a different notion. And it's always going to be the women that are the most amiable. They're of your skin color. They look like, here, now you're going to respect yourself. You're going to put on some clothes. You're going to cover yourself up. And then you're going to be trafficked again. Okay? There's a reason why the feminists talked about it doesn't matter what she wears. It doesn't matter. There's a reason why the extreme forms of slut walks were women walking literally naked with saying, I still am not asking for it. That's not about, oh, now they're using the body for the saying a message. Now they're not using the body. Now they're saying a very clear message. There's a reason for that, because all that dumbfuckery was used to recycle human trafficking. And then when you get the nationalities and the culture into it, so the women that were in the mix of, hey, that woman cheats, that woman is a whore, that woman is a this, that woman is a that woman was raped and is espionage right now. I know what it's like to be tortured, and then you have some sort of a love bomb. You don't even know which energy and what's happening. And then you go back to, well, I like that. You go back to the sexuality, okay? I like this, I don't like that. I like this, I don't like that. That's not, if somebody tries to talk to you about respect, like, you came to me, coercing yourself again on me, and you talk about willing consent? No, darling, you gotta respect me and my boundaries, and you think about your sexual boundaries because you don't even have the self. Somebody's forcing themselves on you, It's like, wait, let me get, and it's astrally, so you're like, okay, let me get back into my body, my pleasure, my what